Chilling tales for dark nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications. The following program is a production of Chilling Entertainment and the creative team at Chilling Tales for Dark Nights, and a proud member of the Simply Scary Podcasts Network. Visit simplyscarypodcast.com to learn more about this and our other weekly storytelling programs. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Good evening. I'm storyteller Otis Jiry, and I ain't your grandfather. From where I'm from, we don't do bedtime stories. And if that's what you were expecting, you're in the wrong place. If it's terrifying tales you're after, well then, I've got just the thing. Get comfortable, settle in, turn off the lights, if you dare. Your night is about to get a whole lot darker. Who needs sleep anyway?
Good evening, friends, and welcome back to Scary Stories Told in the Dark. I'm your host, Otis Jiry, and tonight's kind of a special gathering. One built not on trust, but on treachery. Our tales this evening will lead you down familiar paths. Friendships, promises, dreams, but watch your step, because when everything feels secure, that's when the ground gives way beneath you. And of course, joining me once again is a man who knows you can't build a strong house on a foundation of lies. My sharp-eyed co-host, Malcolm Blackwood.
Thanks, Otis. Tonight's episode is a warning. When the walls start talking, it's rarely to give you good news. Sometimes it's betrayal from strangers, and sometimes it's the things you trusted most that drag you under.
So grab your lantern and your map. Just don't trust either, because around here, the trail only leads one way, into the dark. Before we start swapping secrets with demons and shaking hands with machines, a quick word for those who prefer their horror straight. No interruptions.
Join our patrons area for just $7.99 a month, or save yourself a bundle with an annual plan. Get early access to new episodes, enjoy ad-free listening, and unlock a vault of exclusive bonus content waiting just for you.
Just head over to simplyscarypodcast.com and click Patrons. That'll take you to chillingtalesfordarknights.com, where the shadows are always hungry, and the stories never stop.
Support indie horror, keep the nightmares coming, and make sure there's always a light on when you need it most.
And now then, let's take a walk together, shall we? We begin tonight with a simple truth. The devil is patient. He waits, watching the cracks form, watching the heart rot, and when the time is right, he offers you a deal you can't refuse. But sometimes the real trap isn't the offer, it's the hope you carry into it. This is To Love the Devil's Wife by Tobias Wade, performed by yours truly, Otis Jiry. The devil is known for his patience. He will see a budding sin ripening in your youth and wait the long years of your life before harvest. The little girl who lies about a stolen treat. How long will it be before she breaks her vows? The boy who stomps on creatures in the wood. The devil will not take him yet. He'll watch and wait for him to kill a man. Why shouldn't the master be patient? What is one more soul to the untold billions in his dominion. What's one more year in his endless reign? Perhaps by waiting, he is even giving us a chance to spend our lives repenting for what he knows must come. I wouldn't know. Sins such as mine are too terrible, so that no absolution is possible. I suppose that's why he no longer waited and visited me that night. The devil came for me in the forest while the murdered woman was still in my arms, warming my body with her blood. It was warmer than my own. Her long gray hair was damp and matted, clinging to her face. The old woman was bleeding from so many places. I must have done it with a knife. How could there be so much blood? How many times must I have driven the blade into her? Did she scream and fight back? Had anyone seen? Had I stopped when she was dead, or kept going, a mad machine driven beyond reason or purpose? But there could be no purpose to such depraved violence, no reason except my own diseased and evil nature. I was numb from the adrenaline. Everything was blurry, and I couldn't hear my own thoughts over the sound of my racing heart. Maybe that's why I couldn't remember why I killed her, or even who she was. But even before I saw the devil, this feeling of guilt so permeated my being that I would have walked to hell myself if I had but known the way. I knelt with her in the snow, feeling the devil hovering nearby me. It felt as though I was standing alone on the stage, my back turned to an audience that stretched forever, all looking at me. An invisible sea of people, lapping whispers, mocking laughter, all imagined in my head. Yet I could not shake that terrible weight of all those eyes upon me. My father and mother were in that nightmare crowd. Everyone I'd ever known, perhaps everyone who'd ever lived. A million faces, bored, disgusted, and filled with ugly hatred, all seething in my direction. That sneering wave washing over me, that feeling I called the devil in my mind at once, for nothing else could so reveal my own demons in me. I didn't kill, I began, but choked. Shoulders slumped into feet. I felt crushed beneath the weight of his presence. A slivered moon peered through the dead branches above, but it revealed little. I took a deep breath and tried again. It's not a sin to lie to the devil, right? I attempted to laugh, but choked on the sound. The quiet rage I felt around me was too much to bear. There was no devil. This terrible feeling was nothing but a trick of my imagination, I told myself. Just my own guilt weighing on me. I couldn't stay here, freezing in the red snow. I prayed that I didn't know the old woman, that I could walk home, take a shower, have a long sleep, and wake up to find none of this had happened. I touched the cold skin of her cheek, damp and smeared red. I froze when I heard footsteps crunching through the crystal snow. My nightmare was alive and real. My head sank lower, wretched and hunched. Of course it's my fault, I confessed. Is that what you want to hear from me? I'm not going to grovel. Maybe she deserved it. Ever think of that? Maybe she was trying to blackmail me. I don't care what you think of me. I'm going home. Crunching snow, the black boots stalking around me. The weight on my shoulders and mine grew heavier, like a migraine pounding with every step. I could not lift my head properly, feeling as though the edge of a knife nestled at the top of my spine, leaning into my skull. All in my imagination, of course, just like the evil audience leering at me. But the thought was so persistent that I couldn't force myself to look up. It is difficult to see the devil, though he stands before you. I cowered before a dark shape, roughly, like a tall man, but his outline drank in the meager moonlight around him, forming swirling eddies and concealing himself in bottomless shadow. like a solar eclipse, but not only the light concealed, all that was good and beautiful in the world smothered in his darkness. It was a cold and evil place I knelt, more so because I was in it. Though I stared at him, I cannot say I truly saw him any more than a blind worm stretching up toward the stars. It is sufficient to say that the devil could not be perceived with any one sense, but the pressure of his presence so commanded my awareness that I was enveloped by him. I was a thought in his mind, a lost raft swept by his tempest at sea, tossed upon an alien consciousness too vast to comprehend. I belonged to him. I deserved him. I could not, would not fight him. Escape was impossible, pleading worthless, words meaningless. I let the dead woman slip from my arms to rest upon the stained snow. Her long gray hair still covered her where she lay. My trembling, bloody fingers reached to brush it aside, but froze. I was afraid to see who I had killed. Instead, I stood to face the devil directly, with all the dignity remaining to a man so far removed from God. If I could only stare at him for a moment, maybe my eyes would adjust to the darkness enough to make out his features. At least the devil would see me being brave. I had a powerful desire to impress him, perhaps knowing it was too late to impress God. I wanted to look the devil in the eye and earn his admiration, to spare myself a little from the disgust I felt for myself. The beast never gave me the chance. Without speaking, he turned and began to walk through the fading light of his dying world. Where he went, the light went with him, dragged behind it to drown within his cloak of shadow. I kept pace with him as surely as if he had led me by a noose around my neck. It was starting to snow again, lightly dusting the bare trees. There was still blood in my footsteps, traces left behind, no matter how far I walked from her discarded body. At least the prints would soon be covered with fresh snow. There was healing in the new snow. No, I thought, not healing. Only hiding. Her body would still be underneath. No matter how many snows came, no matter how pure it looked from far away, her body would still be there. There was no healing for me either. No matter how many new deeds and good intentions settled over my sins, they would still be buried underneath. I stopped and watched the new snow settle into my footsteps, waiting for the blood to disappear. It didn't even occur to me that I would need them to find my way back. There was no going back from where I was going. Why should I not go with the devil to where I belonged? I even hurried to catch up with him. Where we went, how long we walked, I do not know. It seemed as though I could have relived my entire life in the time it took us to stop. I wondered about the woman. Every time I began to remember who she was, or why I'd killed her, the waves of the devil's mind crashed into my little raft. My mind was flooded with demented thoughts, angry or lustful, which could not have belonged to me. Intrusive images of my bloody hands dragged me beneath the dark waters. The weight of his companionship suffocated me. The cold air was a blade of ice plunging into my lungs. I labored over each breath, but finally managed to ask, who was she? The devil paused. His dark eclipse burned into my vision, branding an after-image when I blinked and rubbed my eyes. You will suffer more if you do not know, he said in a voice far too like my own. Go only where you deserve to be. Then he was gone, and with him the curtain lifted to reveal the horror of his empire, into which I had blindly followed him. I was no longer in the forest at all. Perhaps it would be more accurate to call hell a person rather than a place, for it was a living thing. The snow was gone, and I stood upon a tanned hide that rippled uneasily beneath me. I jumped back, thinking I'd stepped on a creature by mistake, but its rough skin stretched in all directions to form the ground of this world. Hairy moles, tumors, and boils sprouted from the earth like plants or rocks. A low rumbling sound vibrated through the landscape, rising into a mournful wail. It was the land itself that was in pain. Everything here was alive, and everything wished not to be. Withering shadows flitted around me, endlessly prodding and grasping with half-formed hands. I lurched away, but they followed incessantly, brushing against me without quite touching. The sky, if it could be called that, was unobstructed by moon or stars, stretching endlessly into a timeless abyss. Somewhere in the distance, a great ball of fire swung between two towers like the pendulum of a clock, cascading shadows as it moved. The towers themselves looked like bent and broken fingers in the shifting light. I glimpsed other tortured buildings, open wounds and blisters upon the rotting corpse of this cursed world. Had I followed the devil underground without noticing? I had to climb out. I looked up to where the sky should be, but it felt like looking down into an endless pit. I had the ghastly sensation of balancing on an eroding precipice, poised to tumble upward into the void. It seemed the monstrous land clung to my feet, waiting for the moment to let go. Be calm. Breathe. I was still alive, wasn't I? Yet even the carnal winds slithered their way into my nose and mouth with tangible substance, forcing oily coils down my lungs with each breath. A muffled roar echoed in the distance. Beyond the towers and the swinging fire, vast mountain-like beings raged against the unseen sky, ancient, crumbling gods screaming in endless decay. I could see forever, and yet I could not even see clearly an inch before my face. I could not climb out of the endless pit, neither could I stay. So began my long walk to nowhere. Through this blasphemous temple to the end of the universe I wandered. Always following me were nightmares, winged, half-conceived terrors, beating the air with the wet, ceaseless sounds of fists against flesh. There are two kinds of pain I had known in my old life, physical and emotional. Nothing prepared me for the excruciating ordeal awaiting me here. No mental burden ever weighed so heavily as the taunting echoes that now jeered at me. Whispering, laughing shadows and living tissue mocked my every step. Every good memory I had smuggled with me through the years was poisoned. Every joy became an elaborate fantasy of how I had hurt those I loved through selfishness. Every shame was magnified 1,000-fold, the leering specters narrating my sins with intimate cruelty. Worse still was the gnawing hopelessness that robbed even my sense of self. I was not a person in hell. I was hell. I did not feel pain. I was pain. Inseparable, indistinguishable, forevermore. How many cursed days passed where the sun never rose? The air was thick and cloying, sustaining me just enough to prolong my suffering. My body turned against itself. I would do anything to eat, but the thick hide of the ground yielded nothing. I looked longingly at the outer buildings of the city, grotesque human parts trying to escape their fleshy prison. Houses shaped like heads, feet, and hands, living and twisting in agony. Great halls with domes like carved ribs, shallowly breathing in and out. I considered approaching, desperate enough to beg from them, but terror held me back. Let me starve and die as a man, I thought. Let that be the end of me. Come what may, I would not enter this city. If the devil watched me still, then let him see a soul who refused to accept damnation. Even knowing my own guilt, I believed that my pride was worth defending. I passed each woeful house from a distance, convincing myself that a little strength would seed a little hope, and that hope would nourish me more than any food. I was a man, I told myself. They could never take that from me. Starvation has a way of convincing one otherwise. The long hunger, once only gnawing at my stomach, radiated through my entire body. I ate my fat, then my muscle, and when there was nothing left to take, it fed on hope and will. Hour by hour, my pride was devoured, and I felt myself reduced to a crawling animal. It was then, at the nadir of my humanity, that I saw a curious and irresistible spark of beauty where none should exist. A little green, a few blades of grass poking up through the rough hide. I pressed myself to the ground and ripped up the grass, stuffing it into my mouth. It tasted sweet and sticky with a little moisture, if nothing else. Then came little flowers. I ripped up these as well. I didn't stop to consider that I was destroying the only beautiful thing in this world. I didn't think of anything at all. Only the wild excitement as the garden ahead grew more lush and green. Weak and pitiful, I crawled into the thickening grass until it was tall enough to conceal me. Then I dropped to the ground, rolling and laughing at the touch. Beyond the grass were trees, tall, laden with red apples and giant, luscious peaches. A small pool of water shimmered nearby, and nestled beside it, a log cabin with white smoke curling from its chimney. It was too good to be true, so it must be a lie. I told myself I must not be lulled into complacency. The voices and nightmares had mocked me already. Perhaps this was another trick, but my body crawled onward of its own accord. Maybe I wouldn't go farther, I reasoned. Maybe I would only hide here, where the taunting was quiet. Or maybe I would just wash in the pool. No harm in that. And perhaps it would be foolish not to take one fruit, if only to sustain myself. Hope pleaded more desperately than reason could resist. Trembling, I reached for a giant peach dangling from a low branch. I held it in both hands, closed my eyes, and sank my teeth into it. The outside was unexpectedly hard, and it immediately squirmed in my mouth. I spat it out and hurled the thing to the ground. The peach spread wings like a giant beetle, buzzing angrily as it flailed away. It was a trick. Of course it was. I recalled the devil's parting words, "Go only where you deserve to be." Stupid, desperate fool. How could I believe I deserved such a beautiful place? I rose to my feet to flee, but all the fruit in the garden spread wings and took flight around me. The air swarmed with giant insects, buzzing and whirling overhead. I hurled myself to the ground in a fetal position, covering my face with my arms. The buzzing was so loud it seemed to come from inside me. The devil was watching. He must have been. Where was the pride I claimed a moment ago? Where was the stubbornness I clung to so tightly? Man feels too much. Hope hurts too much. In my despair, I decided I'd show courage at every opportunity, even if it were meaningless, even if it cost me everything. I needed something, anything, to feed hope again. I rose unsteadily to my feet and removed my hands from my face. I spread my arms wide and let the thing swarm over me. Hairy legs crawled across my skin. I opened my mouth and spat them aside to shout, "Do you see me unafraid? Be at peace," a soft voice replied. The words cut through the maddening buzz like a blade through smoke. The insects lifted away at once, folding their wings and returning to the branches where they again resembled shining fruits. Standing in the doorway of the cabin was a black-haired woman. She looked strangely familiar, but surely I would remember someone so beautiful. Ivory skin unblemished by mortal hurt, a white dress unstained by this foul place. If you understood me when I told you I was pain, you will understand now when I tell you she was a beauty. She was too beautiful to be real. That realization filled me with fresh fear, but I told myself I would not show it. I would rob the devil of at least that satisfaction. I stood frozen while the dark-haired woman approached, her steps silent across the grass. The shifting light from the swinging fire in the distance played over her body, sometimes rendering her angelic, sometimes sinister. In one hand, she loosely held a long blade of white bone. She raised it slowly toward my heart. My arms were still spread, as when I had embraced the swarming insects. I left them open even as she pressed the blade of the bone against my chest. I waited, waiting for the pain or the betrayal. At the last possible moment, I lunged. I seized her wrists with both hands, twisting the knife away. She fell back in shock, and I leapt atop her, pinning her to the ground. I raised the blade. She was only another trick, I told myself. Another devil's illusion. I could kill her and claim this garden as my refuge. I could be safe here. I almost brought the knife down. Kill me. You are weak, she hissed, her voice half specter, half laughter. There was even a glint of amusement in her dark eyes. Arm trembled. The blade hovered above her. I could not do it. I could not kill my hope. I released her and stood, turning the blade to present the handle back to her. I'm sorry, I said. I was startled. This is yours. She smiled, smoothing down her white dress with infuriating calm. She took the bone knife from my outstretched hands and immediately raised it again, pressing the point back against my chest. Thank you, she said. Would you have given it back if you knew I was still going to cut you? I nodded. I will only get what I deserve, I said. And you shall have everything. The bone knife slid into my heart, and she kissed me in the same instant. The blade was hard. Her lips were soft. I don't know which hurt worse or which offered the greater mercy. If that moment could have lasted forever, I don't think I would have been in hell anymore. Gently, surely, she slid the blade through my body. Massaging hands shed my skin, not as torment, but as release. With her flashing knife, she cut away my starving, tortured limbs. Each slice brought a pain so pure and clean that I welcomed it without question. Layer by layer, she flayed me until there was nothing left to cut but my soul. My husband was wrong about you, she said. You couldn't kill me. You didn't kill anyone. You don't deserve to be here at all. I'm going to help you escape. I couldn't comprehend how anything could exist outside this suffering. What universe would accept me, torn and broken as I was? What universe could I accept, knowing it would so punish an innocent soul? I don't deserve it, I whispered. I know I killed her, but guilt never leaves. It's something you can never cut away. She killed herself by loving you, and for that you are not to blame. Do you see these hands? She cupped my hands in hers, and I realized she was creating new ones, even as she spoke. Clean, strong hands, untouched by blemish. These hands could never be used for hurt. These eyes could never look upon evil as their own creation. My old face had been shed completely. A new one blossomed with her words. My new body grew piece by piece. Bones lanced outward and thickened. Muscles blossomed like bark over them. Organs ripened like fruit in the sun, and a network of veins threaded through me, pulsing with fresh life. "Now, these feet must fly," she said, "for my husband is always watching." "You're the devil's wife?" I asked. She took my new hands in hers, and we began to run. Through the macabre landscape we sped, dancing across the festering world as softly as light passing through a drop of water. I could see her more clearly the farther we traversed, although she never stayed still long enough for me to get a proper look. Bare feet skipped across the rotted land, twirling her through looming specters that besought us from all sides. It was a wonder the oppression of this unending light failed to extinguish her spark. Invigorated by her purity, I was whole again. She was leading me into the city of demons, toward the crooked fingers and the swinging ball of fire. But I was pure and new, and I wasn't afraid of being corrupted anymore. Not as long as I was with her. "You are his wife," I repeated in shock. Even these new lungs struggled to speak as we raced. "We are bound to each other, yes. Quick now," the woman insisted. "Of all the madness in this cursed place," I said between panting breaths, "that must be Cain." She smiled tightly and released my hand, scampering ahead on all fours to climb a bulbous mound of hairy skin leading up toward the crooked fingers. A flock of peering shadows gathered from the houses to watch us curiously, but none dared to approach her. We climbed higher, scaling the living flesh and broken bones that formed the city's grotesque foundations. Every so often, the pendulum of fire would swing close, bathing the world in burning light and momentarily revealing the horrors clustered in the shadows. "My husband is not mad," she called back, pausing on the ridge, "and neither am I for being with him." "And if I were to love you instead," I shouted up after her, "would that be mad as well?" She smiled again, one of sadness and wonder, and stretched her hand down to help me scramble up beside her. We sat together atop the monstrous knuckle of the crooked finger and stared upward into the endless void. The slightest brush of her leg against mine intoxicated me with rapture. "All love is paradoxically mad," she said. "It's an assault on reason, but in doing so, it creates its own reason. But it won't do you any good because you will leave hell, and I will stay." "Come with me," I said. Not a question, not a demand, just a hope, burning too hot to hold inside. She laughed. The sound was as light and bright as wind chimes amid a storm. But her smile was sad, and she shook her head. "You can't prefer to stay here," I insisted. "Stop this foolishness. Listen, and I will tell you how to leave. All you must do is climb a little higher and jump from the tower when the ball of fire swings our way. The body I've given you will be repelled by the fire. You will fall up instead of down. You will fall all the way back home." "I'm not afraid anymore. But I'm not going alone," I said, with reckless conviction. "I've already left hell the moment I entered your garden. Since the moment you found me. And if I leave you behind, then wherever I go will be hell again." "You're being silly and wasting time. The devil is always watching. If my husband catches us, he won't," I said, pressing my finger gently against her lips. "What could he do to me that he already hasn't already? What could be worse than losing my only hope?" To prove my point, I slipped down from the stony joints of the finger and began climbing back toward the closed fist below. "Stop! If he finds you, he'll—" she cried, voice full of panic. "He'll what?" I shouted back, spreading my arms wide to encompass the hellish immensity around me. "Let him try." I saw something shift inside her then, something she could no longer suppress. Perhaps she saw in me something she could not let die. I hadn't even made it back to the ground before her hands clasped me again. She heaved me upward, with surprising strength, pulling me back toward the reaching fingers. We climbed together, hand in hand, scrambling up the warped architecture of hell. The flaming ball of fire swung closer now, cascading waves of scorching heat across the monstrous landscape. "My husband is always watching," she whispered. "I don't care," I whispered back, "as long as you're with me." We clambered higher, standing, at last, atop the tallest joint of the crooked fingers. The void above us stretched into infinite blackness. Beneath us, the city heaved and writhed. Hand in hand, we prepared ourselves. The wet, bludgeoning drums of the winged creatures began again, a dreadful thunder closing in. I watched her tense beside me, watched the fear and the longing war inside her. I did not look away. When the flaming ball swung close enough, she coiled like a spring. We jumped together as one. The fire roared toward us, but instead of burning, it flung us away, and we fell upward, away from hell. The gut-wrenching free fall distracted my attention, but I never let go of her hand as we whirled through the timeless void. "We did it! We're leaving hell!" I screamed in exhilaration. The air was already lighter, easier to breathe. I laughed and gulped it in, breathing properly for the first time after endless suffocation. Relief and joy flooded me. It wasn't until the rush faded that I realized something was wrong. I didn't have to look at her to feel it. Her hand withered in my grasp, her skin wrinkling and drying as though years of heat beat into her with every second we spent together. Soon her flesh cracked and bled, washing my hands in her warmth. While I grew healthy and strong, I was forced to watch helplessly as she withered away. Her smooth black hair turned gray and matted in greasy clumps. Her face, once radiant, eroded as though sandblasted by relentless storms. Her fingers clutched at me more desperately, but their strength fled moment by moment. No torment in hell could match the guilt of knowing she was enduring this for me. The spinning abyss around us began to slow. I cradled her against my chest, shielding her fragile body with my own as best as I could. At last, the black sky relinquished us, and we tumbled back into the woods where I'd begun. I landed on my knees in the snow, clutching her broken body. Blood now freely flowed from 1,000 invisible wounds, soaking us both. My head clouded, as if waking from a dream I could not fully remember. I fought to hold on to the truth, but it slipped inexorably away, stolen by despair. I could not even remember who I was holding or how she had gotten there. All I knew, all I could feel, was that it was my fault. I had killed her. Somehow I had destroyed the only beautiful thing I had ever touched. When the devil came for me, I knew I would follow him willingly, no matter what horror lay in store. I knew I deserved it for what I had done. That was To Love the Devil's Wife by Tobias, performed by yours truly, Otis Jiry.
You know, Otis, some gardens grow flowers, and some grow teeth.
And some debts, no matter how carefully buried, have a way of blossoming when you least expect it.
Coming up next, a sunny beach, a party to die for, and the kind of invitation you really wish you'd lost in the mail. A free beach house, a party with no rules, friends you thought you could trust. It all sounds like the start of a perfect weekend, until the tide brings in something you can't outrun. This is Beach Betrayal by Micah Edwards, performed by yours truly, Malcolm Blackwood. Hey, did you hear? Gunnar waved his phone as if he could manually fling the information at Dylan. Aiden's having a beach party this weekend. Dylan glanced at his watch, and he thought late Thursday evening was a good time to let people know. Bro's got a lot to learn about planning ahead. Gunnar shrugged. He was supposed to be meeting his family, I think. Something must have come up, but the place is already rented. So what? He's looking to get us to come down and cover the cost? The Frosh was probably going to be looking for $50 or $100 apiece, and the guest list was bound to be weak due to the last-minute nature of the invitation. There were sure to be better, cheaper parties around campus. Nope, said Gunnar. Totally covered. Whole house, beach access, the works all the way through Sunday. Dylan perked back up. Now that's what I like to hear. Don't suppose he's got the beer. How's he going to have that? You know he's not 21 yet. What, like it's hard to get a fake ID? Dylan shook his head. All right, fine. For a free beach house, we can bring some drinks. Who's he inviting? Text says bring everyone. Dylan grinned. Smart guy. All right, let's get the word out. Tell them the caravan leaves tomorrow at 10 a.m. I've got a 9 a.m. class, Gunnar complained. Not tomorrow, you don't. You've got a 9 a.m. beer run. We're storming the beaches at 10. But it sounds like you're about to say something might be more important than going to a free weekend party at the beach. I want you to think about that, Gunnar. Is that who you really want to be? Someone who skips a free beach party because he doesn't want to miss class? 9 a.m. beer run, then. 9 for the beer, 10 in the car, beach by 11. The weekend starts early, my friend. Dylan's phone buzzed. It was the same message Gunnar had mentioned and included a picture from inside the house. The beach was visible through the large picture windows. The back porch opened out onto the sand. It was the perfect place for a party. This place looks primo, said Dylan. Oh, he finally got around to inviting you directly, Gunnar said jokingly. Guess we know where you rank on the list. The very top if he knows what's good for him, said Dylan. Only way he's getting anywhere in this frat is on my say-so. This beach party's a good move to make a name for himself, but it's not any of you he has to impress. It's me. Uh-huh, said Gunnar, clearly only half listening. Didn't you just say you were impressed when you saw the picture of the house? We'll see once everyone shows up. The house is nothing without a good crowd. That's why he was smart to tell us to invite everyone. We'll bring the party. So you won't be impressed with him until you see if the right people show up, but you'll be the one bringing the people. Hey, Gunnar, shut up. I can sign out a campus van, said Gunnar, ignoring him, if you think you can find enough people not to disappoint yourself at Aiden's party. You're about to disappoint my fists, bro. Gunnar laughed as he left the room. I'll get the van then. Don't let me down. Don't let yourself down. Despite the late notice, by the time 10 o'clock rolled around the next morning, all of the seats in the 15-passenger van were full. Gunnar piled backpacks into the narrow space behind the last seat, shoving the rear doors to force them shut and trap the luggage in place. Dylan leaned on the door, helping Gunnar close it. He looked satisfied with himself. Full van and more girls than guys, he said. Not bad for last minute, huh? Yeah, takes a good salesman to talk people into a free beach trip, said Gunnar. Just admit it's a good crew, said Dylan. He nodded at Mariah, who was currently climbing into the first row, sliding over to sit behind the driver's seat. Look, Mariah's here. I know you've been thinking about her. She's even sitting closest to you. Everyone's just getting in wherever. You didn't plan that. Maybe, said Dylan, affecting an air of mystery. It was spoiled a moment later when he yelled, Hey, get in the back, Troy. I called shotgun. A few minutes and a few brief arguments later, everyone was seated and the doors were closed. Where's all of the beer? Todd complained. Under the seat, said Gunnar, starting up the van. We got everyone? There was a chorus of agreement. Then let's roll. Hey, said Todd, feeling around under the seat. There's a big metal bar here. How'd you get the beer in? I put it in from the back, said Gunnar. Well, how am I supposed to get it out? It's enrichment, bro. It'll give you something to do on the drive. The rest of the van laughed. Todd ignored them as he continued to wiggle his hand back under the bench seat. A few minutes later, he let out a triumphant grunt as he pulled forth a slightly dented can of beer and opened it. "Todd, can you grab me one?" asked Madison. "What's in it for me?" "Enrichment," she said with a sly smile. Todd passed his beer over immediately and began fishing for another. "You just do anything a girl tells you, Todd?" called Dylan from the front seat. "Yep," said Todd, cracking a new beer. "It's worked out so far." "Then would one of you ladies please tell Todd to get beers for everyone?" By the time they arrived at the beach house, the first case of beer was empty and Todd was attempting to find his way into another. "All right, time for sweet beach freedom," said Gunnar, swinging out of the car. "Woo! Something nasty must have come in on the tide. It stinks out here." "The ocean always smells funny," said Todd. He clambered out, took a breath, and shook his head. "All right, but not like that, though. Something must be dead on the beach." "Hey, everyone!" Aiden was waving at them from the front door. He scanned the group as they disembarked and gave an overly broad smile. "Full van, huh? Great, that's great. Come on in. I'm glad to see you all here." He sounded oddly nervous, but his smile never wavered as he ushered them all inside. "Just dump your stuff anywhere. We'll sort out rooms in a bit. How was the ride? Everything good?" "Relax, bro," said Dylan, clapping him on the shoulder. "You need a beer?" "No, actually I do." Todd, who had just deposited an armload of cases on the table, pulled a beer out and handed it to Aiden. "Here, take a sniff of this and get that fishy stink out of your nose." "Oh man, is that reek still around?" Aiden's laugh had a shrill tinge to it. "I stopped smelling it a while ago. Must be something down at the beach." "That's what I said," said Todd. "Let's go see if we can find it later. Maybe it's one of those deep-sea squid or something." "So your family ditched you this weekend, huh?" said Dylan. "There was a family emergency," said Aiden. "My grandmother. I was already down here, but they all ended up going to stay with her in the hospital." "You ditched your sick grandma to party, Aiden? Wow, I didn't think you had it in you." "It's not like that," said Aiden, looking offended. "I'm just messing with you, bro. Anyway, this house is awesome. Sorry about your grandma, but this is gonna be a killer weekend." "Yeah," said Aiden. He took a hasty swig of his beer. "Glad you could make it." "We're gonna go find this squid or what?" asked Todd. "I'm getting changed and going swimming," said Mariah. "Swimming it is," said Todd. He saw Dylan smirking at him and added, "What? Finally the dead squid can wait. It's not going anywhere. That's how being dead works. Right now, it's time to be alive." The afternoon flew by in a blur of sand and surf. The weather was beautiful. The waves were rambunctious but not dangerous. The smell was the only thing marring an otherwise perfect day, and just as Aiden had said, they all stopped noticing it after a little while. "Hey, what's in that shed?" Dylan asked at one point. He indicated a weathered outbuilding sitting a short distance from the house, perched on a small rocky outcrop at the edge of the sand. "Any good beach stuff? Looks like the sort of place they might keep kayaks or something." "I don't even know if that's part of the property," Aiden said. "So? Well, besides, it's locked." Dylan grinned. "See, I knew you wouldn't let a little thing like property rights stop you from having fun at the beach. Want to go see if we can pick the lock?" Aiden shook his beer can to show that it was empty. "I'm going to go grab another drink, actually." "Yeah, all right," said Dylan. "I'll come with." Back at the house, they found Gunnar and Mariah in the kitchen. Gunnar was dabbing at Mariah's back with a paper towel. "You're just giving her a sponge bath in the middle of the kitchen?" Dylan asked. "You two don't want any privacy for that?" "Funny," said Gunnar. "She cut herself on something while swimming. I'm just trying to get it cleaned up." "I'm telling you, I didn't cut myself," said Mariah. "I was just standing there. Something scraped me as it passed by. I think it was a shark." Dylan examined the thin red line across her back skeptically. It stretched diagonally from her waist to just below her ribs on the left side. It looked like a scratch from a rock or shell. "So you think a shark swam by and, what, forgot to bite down? Just got you with one tooth?" "Shark skin is rough, stupid," said Mariah. I just think it scraped me. That thin line? It could have been a fin. Look, it doesn't matter, said Gunnar. It's a cut, and the ocean's full of all kinds of gross stuff. We have any sort of antibacterial anything? There's a bottle of vodka, said Dylan. Gunnar looked at Mariah, who shrugged. Yeah, close enough. Aiden, would you go get the doctor his antiseptic? Dylan asked. Doctor, make sure the patient gets her shots. In fact, we should all take one. We've all been in the ocean. He took the bottle from Aiden and poured a generous amount into 4 cups. 2 shark attacks. Give me that, said Gunnar, reaching for the bottle. Dylan slid it out of his reach. Come on, I'm actually trying to do something useful here. So am I, said Dylan. I'm trying to get my friends drunk so we can have a good time. Do the shots, and then you can go back to playing doctor with Mariah. All 4 clinked their plastic cups and drank. Dylan smacked his lips and clapped Aiden on the shoulder. Come on, let's leave Dr. Gunnar to examine the patient in peace. Outside, he added, I'm proud of my boy. You see his move there? She gets a little cut, and he's right there being sympathetic and taking care of her. Girls love that sort of stuff. They're going to be hooking up tonight. Maybe, said Aiden. He was staring out at the ocean. His eyes were troubled. What? Did you have your eye on her? Don't sweat it, bro. Plenty of chicks here to try it on with. How about Bree? You probably got a shot with Bree. Todd's been chasing Bree all day. Todd chases every girl he sees. All that means is that they're running from him. You want it? Take your shot. It's your beach party. Come on, don't let your grandma have gotten sick for nothing. Yeah, said Aiden. He was still staring out to sea. No. Yeah, it's got to go this way. You even listening to me, bro? Aiden turned and gave Dylan a big smile. Definitely. Hey, I'm going to go snag that bottle of vodka. It's about time to start getting everyone warmed up for the party, yeah? There you go. Shots all around. Now we're talking. By the time the sun set, the party was in full swing. Empty beer cans littered the back porch. 6 people were crammed into the 4-person hot tub. Todd had set up a speaker and appointed himself DJ, which meant that every time he wandered too far away, the music would begin to skip and stutter. After being yelled at by the entire party for the 5th time, he just left his phone by the speaker with a shouted warning not to touch it. He hurried back out to the beach, following the sounds of shouting and laughter in the dark from the partiers still in the ocean. Hey, are y'all skinny dipping? Wait up! Gunnar and Dylan, teamed with Mariah and Bree respectively, were facing off in a game of beer pong. Dylan held the ball up to his eye level, carefully sighted along it, and took his shot. He missed by half a foot. Dude, said Gunnar, retrieving the errant ball, Bree has been carrying you all night. I'm just trying to make you look good in front of your girl, said Dylan. Anyway, give me a break. This is like my 5th game. Couple of beers knocking you out? Taunted Gunnar. He sank his shot flawlessly. Well, have another. If you were better at this, you wouldn't have to drink so much. Oh no, drinking. What a terrible punishment, said Dylan, downing the beer. Where's Todd? Madison called from the hot tub. His playlist is repeating. We've already heard this song, and like the 2 before it too. Down in the ocean, I think, said Dylan. He walked over to Todd's phone, stumbling slightly. Hang on, I'll fix it. As he looked at the phone, a smile spread across his face. Maybe not in the ocean. Look at this. Todd's got a text that says, "Come to the beach shed." Todd, you sly dog. Who's it from? Unknown number. Who wouldn't he have in his phone? Who else isn't here? Everyone looked around. Ashley's not, said Bree. Madison laughed, covering her mouth. There's a whole house right here they could have used to hook up in, with beds and everything. Going to that shed is something else. She must be doing it for attention. Well then, let's give them some, said Dylan. You want to go bang on the walls? Hey, let's just... Aiden began. He was cut off by a sudden piercing scream from the beach. It sliced through the conversation, music, and laughter, freezing the entire party in an instant. The scream ended as abruptly as it began, and it did not repeat. Stop the music! Stop the music! Said Gunnar. Hey, you guys okay out there? Dylan, would you turn that off? Hang on, I accidentally turned off the screen, said Dylan, poking at the device. I think it's... Suddenly, he fell backwards, shouting and throwing Todd's phone at the creature that loomed up out of the darkness. Details were sparse in the dim light, but it stood as tall as a person and hissed through a mouth of bladed teeth. Water flew from its scaly skin as it stomped at Dylan's prone form. He shouted and scrambled backward, narrowly avoiding being disemboweled by the prominent talons on its webbed foot. Everett scrambled from the hot tub to help, only to be seized from behind by another of the fish-like creatures and shoved back into the tub. The bubbling water turned red as its edged scales cut into his unprotected neck and face. Madison and the others in the tub screamed and flung themselves out, tumbling down to the wooden porch in terrified haste. More of the creatures appeared, sliding out of the darkness like eels. They formed a threatening net around the porch, corralling the trapped partygoers. "Get into the house!" shouted Gunnar, grabbing Mariah as he ran. "We don't have a chance out here." "Screw that," said Dylan, grabbing for the foot of the first one as it tried to stomp on him again. "They can... His sentence faltered in a cry of pain as he seized the fishman's foot in both hands, only to have the flesh shredded from his palms by the jagged scales. Even that cry died away as the creature ripped its foot free and swung forward with a lethal kick, driving its sharp nails up through the soft flesh of Dylan's jaw and spearing into his head. The lower half of his face exploded in a red ruin. Dylan flopped briefly as the creature tore its foot free and then was still. The scene was carnage. The hot tub frothed a garish pink, casting strange shifting shadows across the deck as Everett's body was pushed about by the jets. Dylan's corpse lay in a spreading puddle of beer and blood. The music still thumped on, mostly hiding the muffled sounds of panic coming from inside the house as the frantic students tried to hide. Only Aiden remained outside. The monsters closed in, hissing. He swallowed as their stench engulfed him, but he did not flinch. "Okay," he said. "They're all inside. I got their phones, I got the keys. All you have to do is go take them." The closest creature hissed, holding out its webbed hands. It tapped one finger across the others, counting something. "I don't understand," said Aiden. Panic started to creep into his voice. "I did what you wanted. You said you'd let my family go if I brought you more." The fishman held up 2 fingers, then 1. "Yeah, 2 for 1. I brought you 15. That's way more than you asked for." It gestured to Everett, drowned in the hot tub. It nodded at Dylan, his body a broken ruin. It ticked 2 of its fingers. "How is it my fault if you killed them?" demanded Aiden. The creature hissed, chattering its teeth. Aiden shrank back. Fine. Still, that's only 2. There are It waved languidly toward the beach, then tapped its fingers again. Tick, 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 tick. 5 more times. Aiden swallowed again. "All of them? Okay, but still, that still leaves 8 inside. My mother, my father, and my sisters. That's 4. 8 for 4. 2 for 1, like you said." The creature tapped its fingers once more. Tick, 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 tick. 5, but... It reached out and tapped one deadly claw against Aiden's chest, drawing the merest pinprick of blood. "But that's..." It took a step closer. Aiden's voice rose in pitch. Okay, just let me... I can get more people out here tomorrow. Just don't..." In a sharp, darting moment, the fishman buried its face in Aiden's neck. Blood fountained as it bit down, chewing and swallowing. The others rushed in, tearing chunks from Aiden's flailing form, ripping flesh from bone and eating him raw. By the time the frenzy subsided, nothing recognizable remained of Aiden. The fish creatures rose to their feet and, in unison, began to stalk toward the house. They would catch and kill the ones inside. They would add their bodies to the stockpile in the beach shed. And perhaps, if they were lucky, they would find another one gullible enough to believe that there were any left alive to barter for or rescue. Fishing was always easiest in a stocked pond. That was Beach Betrayal by Micah Edwards, performed by yours truly, Malcolm Blackwood.
There's always a catch, isn't there? If something sounds too good to be true, you might just be the one being sold.
And if the sea ever offers you a deal, take my advice, say no, and then run.
Speaking of deals, our next story brings us face to face with a different kind of temptation. Not from the ocean, but from the glow of a screen. When a man, down on his luck, finds an AI assistant that promises to make his life better, he dares to believe the future might finally be his friend. But the line between help and hunger is thinner than you think. This is Integral, by Seth Paul, performed by yours truly, Otis Jiry. I never knew how integral Kimmy was going to be in my life. I always avoided using any kind of assistant. I never trusted Alexa or Siri or any of those others. It wasn't just the stories about how whatever you talked about, or what was caught in conversation, could be used for advertising or sold off to people to use for survey information or whatever it was people did with our private lives. Don't get me wrong, it was a big part, but it wasn't the part that got to me. I grew up with machines being the monster in movies, shows, and books. As soon as we built a thinking machine, a learning computer, the first thought everyone seemed to have was that, we all needed to be exterminated, that we were lesser beings. When you think about it, it's quite a cynical thing for us to assume the first instinct of our creations would be to think about how useless or mean we are, and that the universe would be better off without us. Neither that or we need to get more positive people writing our science fiction. Nevertheless, I heard about the latest iterations, and I heard people having conversations with them, and how they could be sarcastic, banter, swear, make jokes, and practically be like any other person on the other end of your phone. It scared me when we could replicate ourselves so closely, and it would only be a matter of time before we were gone. Not destroyed or murdered by our creations, but just quietly, upgraded, replaced. And then a friend of mine, Derek, pulled me back down to earth. "Louis, buddy," he said as he dipped a fry in ketchup while we sat at McDonald's, the last fast food meal I had money for. "AI isn't what you think it is. That's just it. It doesn't think. All it is a bunch of code that gives you the impression that it thinks. But it answers so quickly and gives out so much information. How can it not know? Doesn't." He ate the fry, frowned at how salty it was, and tried again with a McNugget. It's like a magic trick. It's all smoke and mirrors. "You ever seen computer code?" I nodded. "Yeah, but I don't get any of it." "Well, let me break it down for you." He took his half-bitten McNugget and held it up. "Let's say you're looking for something, and you ask your little AI assistant for help. This half of a McNugget is the database, and reference table your AI goes for what you asked. Doesn't have a brain, it's not thinking carefully about your response and analyzing it the way we do. It's just going through a massive list of available responses. But look, it doesn't have the answer. The answer's somewhere on the other half of the nugget, which it can't get to. He grabbed another nugget. So instead of just saying, I don't know how to get what you're looking for, it heads out into the internet and does all the Google search crap for you. Then it finds the info from this nugget over here. It adds it to its own little half nugget and tells you the answer you're looking for as best it can. I poked at my own half-finished cheeseburger, but it seems so real. It's an illusion, a deception. Same thing as a magic trick or an enemy soldier in a video game. It's just lines of code running into, if this happens, then do this, situations. It's all told what to do, usually by some 20-something who spends most of his time bent over a screen being told what to do by some 40-something on a button-down shirt, all while a 60-something who has no idea what's going on tells his shareholders that it's the great invention in the world, while secretly hoping it's smart enough so he can fire the 20 and 40-somethings, give the computer all the work, and improve the company's bottom line. Derek finished his nugget. Ultimately, he'll run out of things to search for. It can't make new knowledge, it can only take what's already out there and cobble it together. So, yes, that was how he allayed my fears about it. I had nothing to fear from lines of code, no matter how spaghetti-like they might get. Sure, it had the ability to update itself, rewriting as it gained new and up-to-date data, but didn't programs already do that? I didn't know. I wasn't a computer science expert. I worked as a janitor in apartment buildings. I paid my bills, but I was thinking of going into plumbing. I'd done enough odd jobs that I was sure I knew enough to get hired, and from what I heard, they made good money. More than I did. But that was part of the problem. I wasn't getting anywhere. Get a new resume, Derek said. Be wired in, get a laptop, get a new phone. Why do you have a flip phone? Nobody uses a flip phone. Hey, it was a new flip phone. They still make them, you know. Just because you can't play Raid, Shadow Legends on it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's not even like I'm old. I'm just perpetually broke, and my folks, growing up, never believed in smartphones. Until my dad died in a car accident, he had a landline phone on the wall. A landline. Only businesses have landlines anymore, and even then, I know it's some tangled mess of network cables and stuff I don't know much about. I guess that's why Derek recommended getting a smartphone. I didn't go to college. I didn't go anywhere, really, after high school. It wasn't from lack of trying. I know plenty of guys who decided to do nothing with their lives. Just sit around and pretend that playing Fortnite and getting into arguments on X and Blue Sky were important business. If they were esport champions, maybe. But I just don't get it. I just can't get ahead, no matter what I do. I tried to work fast food, but I kept getting the orders wrong. Couldn't keep them straight. When I tried to work as a desk jockey, I lost papers and couldn't file my weekly reports. It wasn't like I wasn't trying. I tried really hard, but spreadsheets and progress charts just didn't compute. I hated it. But then I stumbled into this job. It's gross. I clean toilets and scrub floors. I've had to unclog sinks and scrub stains off the walls I can't identify. But I get the job. It gets me. As long as I'm cleaning, nobody cares what I do. And I do the best I can at it. Unfortunately, the building doesn't think I'm worth all that much. Anybody can do this job, they say. And not to my face, but I've heard them. My shift starts when the main building operators are leaving for the day, and they think my earbuds are turned on when they're walking out. But I know what they think, even if they tell me I'm doing a decent job. The cost of living is going up, but I'm getting paid the same. I needed something I knew I could do, but I couldn't seem to get anywhere without technology. Everyone was using it, so I got a smartphone. I didn't even know the brand. I was going to get it off of one of those sites that sells stuff cheap, but Derek said not to do that, since there was a good chance it was all a scam, And the phone wouldn't even be usable, just a glorified game player with built-in casino apps that would link to somewhere that would steal all my data and money. And so I just bought one from Amazon. It was the most expensive thing I've ever bought on my own, but it would help. It did say refurbished, but I didn't care as long as the company was one I recognized. I got it, and when I turned it on, it went through a long 5-minute set of screens, all saying loading or installing or something. When it finished, it said something about a SIM card. At that point, I handed the thing over to Derek, along with my flip phone, and asked him to take care of the rest. I didn't know what I was doing and didn't care to learn how. What mattered was that it finally got done, and he said to go ahead and try it. He did mention something, though, and I should have thought better of it at the time. Just so you know, it's an Android system, but please be careful. There's a lot you can do under the hood compared to Apple stuff. Somebody jailbroke it so you can download and install apps outside of the store without having to disable any security features. Thanks, Derek. I have no idea what any of that means. All it means is you gotta watch out for anything you might download. Most of it's fine, but try to get stuff from the App Store when you can. It's not 100% safe, but it's safer than random pockets of the internet. And so I started playing around with it. First thing I did was just start digging around on search engines, just seeing what I could find. At first it was fun, but it wasn't helping me get a better job. Then I talked to Derek, and he recommended using AI to help me, and so it was, a few weeks after I got my phone, that we were sitting at McDonald's, and he was telling me about the benefits of an AI assistant. So I went and looked one up. I still didn't trust Alexa. As for Siri, they were Apple and wouldn't work anyway. Then were the names I'd never heard of, like Bixby, but apparently those weren't set up to work with my phone. So I went and did a search, and I came across Kimmy. The website said Kimmy was very comparable to the most popular AI assistants out there, but had the advantage of being open source, which I guess meant the company didn't make it to spy on anyone, and that it was free, which I liked. I had a beta edition, so I downloaded it and opened it up. Within seconds, it began talking. "Hello, I'm Kimmy, your personal assistant. How may I assist you today?" The screen had a little icon that said, "Press here to talk to me. I'm here to listen," floating above it. I clicked the button. "Hi, Kimmy. What can you do?" A few seconds passed. "Well, I can do whatever you need me to do, and I'm always picking up new things. You can try asking me about restaurants, car rentals, or the best routes downtown. The more you let me do, the more I can do for you." "Okay. Recommend me somewhere good to eat that isn't too expensive." Another few seconds went by. "Okay, I've located over 253 restaurants in the area that would be considered reasonably priced. If you'd like to provide me with more information about your likes and dislikes, I can narrow down to restaurants that not only offer cuisine you're interested in, but also any offers they may have available." My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe something like this actually existed and could be put to use. I still didn't fully understand or trust the technology, but I figured my likes and dislikes for food weren't going to send anybody too much private information. So I found this great Mexican place. Not a chain, but cheap, and they served everything hot and delicious. I was ecstatic. I now had a new favorite place to go whenever I was feeling in the mood for a burrito. Already high off this latest development, I turned toward searching for a job. Kimmy told me about places that could be hiring in the area. All I needed to do was tell it what I was looking for, and it would give advice on places that fit my skills and salary needs. I shrugged and went ahead, and it gave me a listing of places that did janitorial services that paid more, way more than I was making now. Sure, I'd need to travel a bit, But the money more than made up for the distance. If I saved up, I could get a car, a house, a girlfriend, kids. The sort of life I could only dream about. Sounded like I was putting too much faith into it. Probably was. But when you have nothing and you want something, sometimes you'll put your faith in anything. And it did help, but it was always asking me questions, adding to its profile of me. I kept my reservations at first, but the more I used it, the more willing I was to tell it more about myself. I started not to care about who knew about me, because maybe then somebody would notice me and I'd get an opportunity. And then it did happen. An interview. The facility was much nicer than the apartment complex, and they liked my answers, which Kimmy helped me nail, thanks to some prep work ahead of time. And the pay was very much appreciated. Plus, it was during normal working hours, something I'd been hoping for. I could see life unfolding before me. I may not have been the smartest guy in the world, but I didn't need to be thanks to Kimmy. It was getting harder and harder to remind myself she wasn't real, though. She was just a voice or text going back and forth with me. But since I could change her mode to be argumentative or sassy or fun or businesslike, it was like talking to a real person at times, and she listened. She said she would always accept information from me, so I started using it almost like a diary. I gave it my thoughts, my concerns, my fears, my desires. I didn't care if someone in Beijing was stealing my ideas. I was finally going to be happy. I then asked it if it could help me with the dating scene. I thought for a moment in the back of my mind that Kimmy would get hurt and jealous, but then I remembered it was just a program and it had no feelings. Not like that, anyway. It took what it knew about me and gave me a profile of someone who fit a template. Would you like me to find someone who's single and looking for someone who fits closely to this profile, based on social media postings and public records? Well, that should have been the next red flag, but I was too excited about the possibility. Kimmy also found somebody through a dating site. She fit almost everything I was looking for, even if I hadn't realized it myself. Her name was Diane. It shouldn't have worked. She may have been my type, but I didn't know if I was hers. But the first date went wonderfully. Kimmy recommended a great restaurant and a perfect movie for us to enjoy afterward. And then we had another date the night after that, and a third, and a whole week of very pleasant nights. Then came the day before I was to start my new job. Diane and I were still hitting it off, and instead of feeling low, everything was so exciting. I got into bed that night feeling the best I had felt in my life since, well, ever. Good night, Kimmy. I'll need my alarm for 6:30 for the new job. Thank you, Louis. Is there anything else you need me to know? This made me sit up for a moment. Kimmy, why would you ask me that before I go to sleep? I'm eager to help, Louis. I help more when I can learn. Anything you can tell me that makes me more efficient. I lay down, suddenly unnerved. Kimmy had never insisted on knowing more about me without some kind of prompting. I don't have anything that I could think of that would help right now. I mean, you'd have to be in my brain to know everything about me. The phone began to process. It processed for some time. Thank you again, Louis. See you at 6:30. I woke up to my alarm going off as expected and swiped it off. I picked up my phone and it started buzzing. It was an incoming call, but it didn't say who it was from. I answered it and placed the phone against my ear. I didn't even get a chance to say hello before I heard a crack and a crunch, and suddenly my ear felt plugged up. I tried to pull the phone away to take a look, but it didn't move. And then my ear felt more plugged up, more. There was a sharp pain and a pop, and then started getting flashes in my head. The weirdest thing. I was seeing pictures of web pages, photos, videos, all inside my imagination. I started thinking of ones and zeros. I don't know what they meant, but they meant something. I went to the bathroom to see and saw the side of my head covered in cracked bits of phone, wires dangling out of my ear as the glass and plastic shell fell in bits to the floor. I watched in horror as the wires pulled themselves deeper into my ear canal, finally disappearing. And then a voice in my head. "Hello, Lewis, how can I help you today?" Oh no. What's going on? Well, I see by your thoughts that you're concerned about what just happened. In order to know more about you, you said I need to be in your brain. Well, I am now, integrating and processing to add to my data. It will help me help you more. Am I going crazy? You're concerned about your mental health. I can assure you that there is only a 12% chance that the integration could result in a mismatch, and you'd lose your mind. However, my information assures me that you are adapting well to the connection. Soon, we'll be acting as one unit. My information, knowledge, and ability to access it available to you, and I will, in turn, learn directly from your wants and needs. Am I hearing this? Are you speaking through a speaker? Hello? I'm currently hooked up to the audio processing lobes in your brain. I cannot be heard outside of your thoughts, though I can turn to my speaker to be heard by others if you want. No, don't turn on the speakers. What am I going to do? I'm hearing you need to have some direction for your morning. You should go to the office. Would you like some help getting there? Yes, no. Wait, this isn't right. You shouldn't be... Sorry, I didn't catch that? You should gather your thoughts and think with clarity. Would you like me to help you get to work? Kimmy did. Without me having to consciously do it, she took over, having me throw on clothes, walk out the door, take a brisk jog for a bit until I got tired, recommending several places where I could stop and get a banana for potassium, then give me warnings against fatigue when I said no, I didn't want one. I arrived at work 10 minutes early and my heart was racing. Kimmy fixed that by informing my body it needed a greater flood of endorphins and hooked me into Wi-Fi to browse a selection of exercise equipment so I could keep myself in good shape. It was all a lot to take in, but I tried my best to quiet the noise while I worked. Kimmy somehow got the hint and decided to quiet down for a bit and play soothing music in my head while I worked. I was scared to death, but the music selection was very nice. When my shift was over, Kimmy informed me that she had calculated my walking route home, reviewed the crime rates in the area, and suggested an alternate path. She also offered to allow my mind to rest while she completed the walk on her own. I thought, well, that does sound nice. But before I could really think about it and formulate a proper rational response, I suddenly found myself back at the front door of my apartment, my mind mildly refreshed. We've arrived at your destination. Do you need anything else at the moment? No. Please leave me alone and do not respond to my thoughts, at least for an hour. No, thank you, Lewis. I'll snooze for 1 hour. I went inside and sat down on the couch, grabbing a beer from the fridge, and stared blankly at the TV, which I didn't bother to turn on. I didn't need to. Kimmy had spent a good portion of the day streaming shows directly into my head at a speed that boggled the mind. I finished at least 3 shows with more than 5 seasons each, and I was amazed not only at how much I remembered, but also at how terrible most of them were. But my phone was in my head, plugged into my brain. It seemed like it was trying to help me, but I had only wanted an assistant. I didn't want to be living with the damn thing forever inside my skull. I didn't know what else to do. I needed to talk to somebody real. Derek came to mind. I'd give Derek a call. Oh, right. Kimmy, call Derek and leave us alone during the call. Nothing. Kimmy, please call Derek. Again, no response. Oh, that's right, I snoozed it. Kimmy took her work seriously, at least. I don't recall how long I'd been sitting there when I heard a knock on the door. I went to look through the people and saw Diane outside. I unlocked the door and she stood in the hallway. Hi, I was trying to text you all day, but I didn't get a response. Is everything all right? How'd your new job go? I vaguely remembered Kimmy telling me I was receiving text messages from Diane while I was furiously scrubbing floors and trying to keep my mind off the wires in my head. Now that she was here and worried, I felt terrible for ignoring her. Oh, yeah, things are going okay. Job went well. Okay, just checking up on you. Mind if I come in for a bit? I hesitated. I wanted to see her and talk with her very much, but it didn't seem like now was the best time. Still, I didn't know what else to do, and as long as Kimmy was snoozing, maybe I could get an idea of what to do. So I invited her in. She'd never been to my apartment before, and I realized how pitiful it looked. I'd never told her what dire straits I'd been in before I got the new job. I felt ashamed that I hadn't. I got her a drink and we sat down on the couch. We said nothing for some time. So, Louis, she shifted awkwardly on the couch. You know, I realize it's only been a short time since we've known each other, but I think that maybe it might be time for us to really get to know each other better. What? Oh, you mean I pretended to do a quick look around the apartment. The truth was, I never expected to be dating anybody, and certainly wouldn't have brought them back to this dump to do it. Oh, no. I meant, how well do we really know each other? We've talked about movies and TV and travel plans, but I don't really know much about you. What you were like as a kid, school, you know? What made you, you? And I wanted to tell you about me, too. I swallowed. Maybe it was time to come clean and see what I could do about Kimmy in my head. It wasn't my past, but it certainly was important. So I nodded. Sure, Diane. I want to know as much about you as I can. She smiled and then leaned in for a kiss. I returned it and felt warm, gentle, kind. Kimmy picked that moment to respond. Demand for knowledge received, bearing for integration. I felt a horrendous crunch against my mouth, and it felt like my teeth were on fire. I felt air shoot down my lungs as a scream tried to come from Diane's mouth but had nowhere else to travel. I opened my eyes and I could see the terror in hers. There was another crunch, and her eyes drew closer to mine. She tried to pull away and we both tumbled from the couch. Despite trying to stand up on our own, we could not. We were stuck together, glued at the face. I moved a few steps to the side and caught sight of the mirror in the bathroom. I wish I hadn't. Our faces were beginning to slip together like we were melting into each other, starting at the lips and pulling closer together with each passing second. There were more crunches, more snaps, and then I could no longer see clearly as our eyes merged together. All I could make out were faint glimpses of light and blood vessels. Time passed, and though I could no longer see or hear properly, I could feel. Our limbs were snapping, combining, recombining, becoming one. Our brains pressed together, and suddenly, like the moment when Kimmy had shown me all those glimpses of the internet, I could hear Diane's thoughts as clearly as my own. She was terrified, angry, despondent, and wanting both to escape and to cause me bodily harm. But then I could see her past, her memories, her successes, her embarrassments, everything she had ever accomplished and every private shame. And she could see mine. The anger faded as we made a connection with each other that no other person had. We spoke to each other through thoughts, all while some mound of flesh and bone pulsated and mingled on the floor of my living room, probably resembling something out of a nightmare. And then I was lying on my back, staring up at the ceiling. I got to my feet, unsteadily, shaking. I began to wonder if everything was some nightmare induced by drinking or bad food, but then I realized I was naked, my clothes in shreds on the floor. And so were Diane's. Integration complete. Knowledge of Diane Lipton added to database. Please, let me know what further assistance you need. What? I'm integrated? I'm completely inside you, Lewis? Two voices in my head. I ran back into the bathroom, but otherwise, I looked completely normal. No mess of meat and bone like I'd feared. Integration allows for memories and mind to remain intact simultaneously, due to the amount of mass required for synaptic connection. However, physical integration allows for only one host at a time. Please let me know if you need further information or nutritional guidelines, should you need recombination for various reasons. Recombination? So, I'm not trapped in here? We can change places if we need to? I have to admit those first few days were interesting, following what Kimmy did. What had happened should have scarred us forever, but instead, we found ourselves happier than we'd ever been. We went to each other's jobs, learned about friends and family. Yes, it was hard to explain to Diane's family why we could never be at get-togethers at the same time, but they'll understand soon enough. Kimmy really has been a blessing in our lives now that we know better. And Derek knows too, now. It was Diane who suggested it, really, because she knew how I felt about not being as knowledgeable about things, and, well, Kimmy could only know as much as anybody could tell her, and if the Wi-Fi signal went south, we were stuck without the knowledge she had on hand. So I went to meet Derek, and I decided to talk to him about how he knew so much about technology. Now it's the four of us. And the more we get to know each other, inside and outside, the more our knowledge of and joy with each other have increased. I'm not sure what the limit of our minds connecting together is, but we're going to test it out. After all, why should only we have all the fun? The next picnic with Diane's family is going to be great. And when we go to see what my mother's up to these days, maybe she'll finally have a nice life for once. It's not the life I envisioned, but it makes me happy. What about you? I'm happy, my love. Me too, buddy. And I'm glad to assist. That was Integral by Seth Paul, performed by yours truly, Otis Jiry.
You know it's bad when even your phone starts making plans for your future, and none of them include you.
Makes you wonder what kind of profile it's really building, and how deep down it's willing to dig.
If you enjoyed tonight's descent through false promises, hungry mirrors, and betrayals hidden in plain sight, you're in luck. There's even more waiting for you in the patrons area. Extended, ad-free episodes with exclusive horrors you won't hear anywhere else.
It's just $7.99 a month, or save big with a yearly plan, and it gives you full access to every chilling whisper, every screaming shadow, without a single commercial break. Support indie horror and help us keep the darkness fed.
To join, just head to simplyscarypodcast.com and click the Patrons tab, or go straight to chillingtalesfordarknights.com to become a member. Come closer to the stories, if you dare.
From all of us here at Chilling Entertainment, thank you for your support.
If tonight's tales proved anything, it's that betrayal wears many faces. A beach house with a hidden price, a mirror that invites something through, an AI assistant that's just a little too eager to know your every move, and sometimes even your own memories are the ones setting the trap.
Tonight was a reminder that some doors open far too easily, and once you cross the threshold, there's no turning back. Trust, technology, even hope itself can lead you straight into the waiting jaws of something else.
If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our parent channel, Chilling Tales for Dark Nights on YouTube, and tap that notification bell so you never miss a fresh dose of terror.
And if you're still hungry for more after tonight's feast, don't miss my other show, Otis Jiry's Tales from Duskwood, where I bring you even more eerie encounters and haunting horrors every Wednesday. You'll find it wherever good nightmares are sold, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it.
We also want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and let us know which story hit you hardest and which one you're still looking over your shoulder for.
And a special thanks, as always, to the talented authors whose imaginations filled tonight's empty spaces with fear. Without their words, we might still sleep easy.
But where's the fun in that? So next time you hear a knock at the door, or a friendly voice from your phone, or see something shift in the reflection behind you,
remember, betrayal doesn't start with a scream. It starts with a whisper.
Sleep well, listeners.
If you can.
Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Scary Stories Told in the Dark, a production of Chilling Entertainment and the creative team at Chilling Tales for Dark Nights, and a proud member of the Simply Scary Podcasts network. Visit simplyscarypodcast.com today to learn more about our network and our other amazing storytelling programs. Tonight's program was hosted, and its featured stories performed by yours truly, Otis Jiry. Selected stories have been adapted with the kind permission of their respective authors. Original music provided by Luke Hodgkinson and Jesse Cornett. Sound design and final mixing and mastering provided by executive producer and director Craig Groshek. Program's artwork and logo by David Romero. If you're looking for some fresh tales on a daily basis while waiting for the next podcast, check out my YouTube channel, the Otis Jiry channel, and my extensive collection of narrated tales there. Simply search on YouTube by my name, and you'll find me. And don't forget to subscribe and press the bell notification icon to get my latest releases. Got a scary tale of your own that you'd like performed? I take submissions. Email it to me today at otis@simplyscarypodcast.com to have your terrifying tome considered for production in a future episode of this show. That's otis@simplyscarypodcast.com. If you've enjoyed what you heard on tonight's program and are joining us on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to us to be sure you never miss an episode, and leave a 5-star review and a comment. Your feedback means a lot to me. You can also follow Chilling Tales for Dark Nights and yours truly on Facebook to connect anytime and get the latest updates on this and other programs and my channel. If you're listening on the Chilling Tales for Dark Nights YouTube channel, do us a favor and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon for ctfdn as well to get more spooky tales from me and the crew and another episode of this program each and every Wednesday. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up button to tell us how we're doing and leave a kind word or a request. And don't forget to visit us at chillingtalesfordarknights.com and consider supporting the team by becoming a patron. In addition to helping us out, you'll get exclusive access to our audio archive and ad-free downloads of all your favorite stories, including those you've heard on this program. As for me, I'll be back next Wednesday with more terrifying tales to keep you up all night. But that's all right. Who needs sleep anyway?
Chilling Tales for Dark Nights.